I'm an old radio guy. I'm going to start at 9:00:00. I'm sorry. Yeah, if you have the wrong answer, you stand underneath that. All right, we're not on radio. Let's get started. I'm so excited. I'm going to jump the gun on this and go a little bit early. So you call up somebody to fix your car. That somebody shows up with a teeny tiny toolbox. And in that toolbox, they got a pair of pliers. And they got a screwdriver. What's your confidence level that your car is going to be running? Pretty low. You're on the beginning of a journey into storytelling. You could attack that journey with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers. Or you could dig a lot deeper into the storytelling toolbox and take an inventory of what you actually have available to you to tell stories with. And in the process, take your storytelling to the next level. The session we're about to dive into is called Toolbox, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to expand your toolbox. And our goal is next level storytelling. We tell stories all the time. It's part of life. We're being intentional about it here at the Guild so that we can do it better. But what's our objective? We're defining that objective as next level. Now, let's talk about who this applies to. If I want to be an audio drama sound designer, well then, bam, this is right down the strike zone for me, okay? This is just the tip of the funnel. This is fantastic. But what if that's not my jam? What if I want to be an actor? Well, guess what? The more an actor knows about the processes involved in good storytelling, the more effective that actor can be. Star Wars fans? Ewan McGregor, 8, 9, 10-minute chunks of him acting with no one in the earlier Star Wars films. Because if you know the process, you know he's in a studio that's painted green and pretending to talk to somebody who's going to be drawn in much later. And yet he has to create viable characterizations. Happens all the time. The actor knows the process. The actor can create a better story. The actor that knows the process of audio drama storytelling is going to be more effective at it. All right? So we got the actors involved. Writers. Dan's here. This week he's going to start working you through the process of taking a book, turning it into a script. As a writer, if you say, Horace was scared, that's ground level stuff. But if you find ways, even with words, to communicate to me that Horace was scared, you're doing some next level storytelling. Even with words. Horace walked tentatively into the room, looked around nervously. You've just told me Horace was scared, but you did it with a bit of a next level sheen to it. Okay? We're going to talk about ways in audio that you don't even have to use words, and you can tell me Horace is scared. That's next level stuff. That's where it gets interesting. That's where it gets nuanced. That's where it gets textured. So our actors, our writers, diving into next level stuff. Now, everybody knows that as an actor, what I really want to do is direct. Acting is to directing as playing the tuba is to conducting the orchestra. When you get to direct, and honestly, if you're interested in audio drama media at all, that should be something that's sitting on your horizon. It is a phenomenally fulfilling experience. you got to have your chops around you because there's a lot going on. You are juggling chainsaws, and if you grab the wrong end of one, you will lose an arm. But when you get to do it, it's phenomenal. It's like having this enormous toolbox. And you can do just about anything. You can take the actors, you can move them emotionally. You can take the pacing, increase it, you can slow it down. You can take the script, you can interpret particular sections and ask the actors to go that direction with the interpretation. You can then talk to the sound design people and say, you know, this really needs to come out and just smack you in the face. I want that explosion bigger. You can talk to the composer and say, we do not know that the bad guy is behind the door. You do, but we don't. So you're going to hint at it. You can have all this input if you understand the process. So directors need to know next level storytelling as well. But here's the thing. If you have zero interest in audio drama production, there is a parenthetical question in my mind as to what you're doing sitting in this room, but we'll just set that aside for right now. We have so many next level communication tactics that we use on a daily basis that we may or may not be aware of. Two directions. We have input. We take things in from people. And we assess what our next move is based on that input. We put out things to people, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes very consciously. And it's all unspoken. So, if we use the very safe playground of audio drama and bounce around some next level communication ideas, we might also be tapping into things that are going to be useful in life. If you understand nonverbal communication, guess what? When you walk down the aisle and make all those pledges, life's going to be a little easier. It really is. Next level communication. That's what we're after. Works in society. All right? There's a lot of verbal communication going on right now in our world. But there's a lot of nonverbal communication as well. Works in business. You know, you walk into a business meeting, there are so many statements made before the first word is said. Works in ministry. Pastors, the good ones, sit down with someone and they get a sense before the first word is spoken why this person is there. You can feel the heaviness. All right, so that's our objective. Now, what I want to find out from each of you is your name, where you're from, and if you're stranded on a desert island, what's the one tool you're taking with you? Go!
Set the portal. I'm from Georgia, and if I had to take something, I guess a bunch of paper and pens.
Bunch of paper and pens. So you could write your memoir and have it found 70 years later, win a Pulitzer Prize in absentia.
No.
Excellent. Good. Seth.
My name is Brian, originally from Miami, Florida. I'd probably have a guitar with me. Hopefully there's extra strings for rust.
Yeah, because the humidity.
Right.
It's a desert island. Yes.
I'm Angelina Santalucia. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I would bring a hammock because you can store things in it, and if you need to get higher because something's coming after you, and you have a bed.
Very practical.
Very practical. My goal by the end of this session is to be able to say your name with panache. I'm not going to attempt it yet because it's a little bit of work.
Hi,
Peter.
I'm Peter from Brookings, Oregon.
From where?
Brookings, Oregon. It's a little tiny town. I'd bring a boat.
And you thought you were being practical. Nice.
I'm Molly from Maine, and I'd probably bring an axe.
Nice.
Rebecca Bryson from Michigan. I might bring a book. Yes.
Is planning on staying a while?
I guess. I can be learning while I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm Rochelle from Colorado. I bring a pocket knife.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
I'm Isabella, and I'm from Pennsylvania, I'd probably just bring an extra pair of clothes.
Okay. Sarah?
I'm Sarah, I'm from Wisconsin, and I'd probably bring my camera and document my story until it dies.
Till it dies. IT and input.
Or I die.
Yeah, well, one or the other. Yeah. Either way, the camera's not taking any more shots. Where in Wisconsin, Sarah?
Milwaukee.
Oh, fantastic. Good.
My name is Caleb. I'm from Richfield, Washington, and I'd probably, it's kind of boring, but I'd bring an axe as well.
Okay. Nothing boring about that.
And I'm Ethan. I'm from Naples, Florida. And I would bring my emergency tactical kit, also known as my backpack, because I like to keep like a little bit of everything in there, like knives, a little bit of food, Benadryl, fresh underwear. Like I like to keep a little bit of everything in
Yeah,
there.
in case you meet somebody on this deserted island.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right? I mean, deserted island means yeah.
My name's Todd, and I'm bringing a solar-powered sat phone. All right, I need to know what level of interaction you've had with audio drama. Have you acted in one, produced one, written one? Ethan, we'll start right here and go backwards.
Audio drama.
Yeah. You're a big fan, you live and die by them, you've written, tell me.
I like them. I don't know a whole lot about them. So, and I've done some acting like on stage, but not like necessarily just voice acting.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good, Caleb.
I have not done voice acting.
Okay. Anything else?
I've done children's choirs, I've done one play, and I grew up with music.
Cool. Sarah?
I have done nothing, and I'm not musical or into acting or voice acting.
Milwaukee is just ruling this morning, Sarah. That's awesome. Isabella?
I adore audio dramas. My friends and I try to make our own, which is fun. We also make our own movies, so I've done some acting. And I have tried out for voice acting here in 2016, but I didn't.
Like. Base level. Adore. Next level. Well, yes.
I like listening to audio dramas, and I really love stories, and I like reading out loud to little kids and have a lot of fun with the different voices. But I also helped with the Unlikely Wise Man. Last December, I sat down and Sarah's like, "Here's a paper, keep track of which scenes." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then Peter walks by and he's like, "You should put a lot more scribbles on that page." And I was like, "Oh, how?" And so then he's like, "You do this and this and this." And so I did things and handed it in, and it was helpful. I think they said.
Fabulous.
It was a lot of fun.
Sorry. I've grown up listening to audio dramas, Odyssey, Lamplighter, etc. And I helped try to write some things for the guild. I guess we wrote a couple short ones. And then I was in just a local live radio play last winter.
Fantastic.
Christmas.
So I haven't acted in a voice or an audio drama, but I did help write The Unlikely Wise Man last semester, and there was a little bit of production process that I was able to experience too, so that was cool.
Excellent. Peter?
I'm absolutely fascinated by audio dramas. I've done radio in my past, doing producing, editing, show hosting, and stuff, so I have background in that. I've listened to almost all of the last Lamplighter ones and a lot of audiobooks. So I'm excited. I do acting, not voice acting, but yeah, it should be fun.
Acting is voice acting. You'll see. Yes?
So I've always listened to like Ventures and Odyssey, and then Lamplighter. I like doing theater, and I also got to be one of the voice actors in The Unlikely Wise Man.
Nice. Ryan?
I used to listen to audio dramas when I was a kid, and still do, and my son listens to them. I used to go to sleep with Abbott and Costello and Narnia stories and Charlie Brown. I'd put the cassette in and fall asleep to it every night, so I always loved that medium. And then when I was in high school, after I graduated, I got into professional theater, and I did some acting on stage, and then some voiceovers from off stage when they needed it. So that's about as far as the professional voiceovers.
Fantastic.
Just making voices to myself.
Don't we all?
Yes.
Any Gen Zs need clarification on the word cassette? Okay. All right. How's that?
Yeah, so I haven't actually done anything like big. I've kind of just done solo projects by myself because I wanted to learn how to do animation. So like I'd make my own videos with that. So I did do a little bit of voice acting, but I was also directing the voice acting. Not really great, but I would love to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
voice acting are something I really love.
All right, so gives me a perspective. What we're going to do is a lot of listening today. We're going to do listening as we explore next level stuff. So you guys have talked about your drama jam. Here's a little bit of mine.
The stage is set.
What are those guys doing down there, Grandpa?
There's gonna be a big fight pretty soon.
Oh, man, that's a big one. Like firing a cannon.
He killed my child. He killed Bruce, and Riggs is dead because of him. Why aren't you more worked up about this?
Yeah, look at the airfield out, plane in sight. This is a setup. Setup? I don't know who they are, but they clearly got an okay from Rehoboth. Get back to the main cabin, lie on the floor, and stay in the center.
Peter swung to face Lord Sir Caspian, snatched his legs from under him, and with the back cover of the same stroke, hit him in the head. Edmund was now at his side. The giant was stamping forward, stooping low and swinging his club. The centaurs charged, the dwarfs let fly their arrows. Full battle was joined.
Hello, Father Gilbert.
What begins as a simple phone call
Oh, hello, Mum.
soon becomes a mystery involving life and death.
That can't be right. What is it? She doesn't seem to have a pulse. Oh, but the machine... What is it? What's wrong? 3112, I need a team here now. Oh, my darling little girl is playing.
Fantini, what's the matter?
Save me, monsieur. He's come to take me to prison.
Who has?
I'm afraid I've given her a fright.
Javert. I know what you want. Inspector Javert, if you please. Now hurry up. Inspector Javert, a word with you in private first. No private words with you.
Monsieur Madeleine is going to bring my cousin.
No, Monsieur Madeleine either. No one but a thief, a liar, and a convict called Jean Valjean.
Abort! Abort!
Hey!
From Gap Digital.
Okay. I'm ready.
Available now.
So you're going to be talking about promotion as this semester moves forward. We'll talk about some things that you can do to kind of create trailers for the productions that you'll be involved in. That's kind of what that is for my little company called Gap Digital. I've been very fortunate to be able to be involved with a lot of different projects, and it's just the exciting thing for me now is create opportunities for other people to share access to some of those resources. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to give you a 60-second clock. I need you to close your eyes and listen intently for 60 seconds. Ready? Go. All right, what did we hear?
A zipper.
Okay.
You rolled up your sleeves, sounded like.
Flipping pages.
Yeah, clicking in mine.
Where was that, Ethan?
Back left corner. Or my left corner.
Okay, what else?
Swishing of your pants. The swishing of your pants and the stuff in your feet.
Yeah.
You killed the bottom.
I did kill them. You were supposed to have your eyes closed, Doc. Anything else?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's a crinkly noise?
Yeah.
Snipping, sliding the book.
Okay, so here's the thing. Number one rule of communication, what is it? Know your audience. If you're doing audio drama, what part of the human interface are you playing to? The ears. Have you ever stopped to think about how incredible your hearing is? How did you know that noise was behind you? You have two ears on either side of your head. How did you know it was behind you?
You just tell that you were farther away, and I don't know like specifically, but just like you were farther away and behind me on my left. So
when you hear an airplane, where do you look? Right. Two ears. Yeah, exactly, behind it, because the sound's taking time. Ooh, upper level stuff. Next, we're going to talk about Doppler effect and get really excited. So, yeah, here's the thing. We take a lot of what our hearing does for granted on a minute-by-minute basis. When I first started Left Behind, I wanted to take it up to the next level, throw all kinds of stuff in there, and create a cinematic experience. Blind people started mailing me and saying, "This is fabulous." I started responding and saying, "I want you on my team." And I created a half a dozen folks that are visually impaired that were my consultants. I said, "Tell me, walk me through the process. You walk into a room, what are you doing?" Because they're very aware of it. We are not. And we have to fight to get to a point of awareness. They do not. They know exactly what to do when they walk into a room. And we do that all the time. We are just not aware of it. Want to do some next level drama? Check into what God has put into our hearing and start playing with it. Because you know what? We can get there. We don't think about that. We just say, here's some words, we'll record them and then play them over a speaker. Where's the speaker at? Is he moving towards you or away from you? What is the room that you're in? These are all things that affect the sound that we hear. Base level, dog barking. Next level, dog barking 400 yards off to the left. We have all this potential. It can be done. There's so much that your hearing can do. So, you know, if I let me just throw a quick clip at you here. And sounds like this.
Where you go in life is up to you. There's one airline that can take you there. United.
Can anybody identify that voice? Actor. Probably in his 80s now. Jeremiah Johnson, Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid. It's Redford. Okay, so 20 years ago, that demonstration worked a lot better. You people are just too young. But think about it. The phone rings. Hey, what's up? Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Not only is it one voice of 6 billion on this planet, and you recognize it, but it's going through all kinds of crunching and wronging and messing up to go digital, then just go flying through the airwaves, then come back, and you're still able to recognize it. Most humans can recognize 200 different voices. Just the process of creating speech is the same for each one of us. We're pushing air across some muscles, they're vibrating, like the strings of his guitar, and they're creating a particular timbre and tone, and it's recognizable. That's how nuanced our hearing is. All right? And we can do the same thing with emotions and sounds that convey particular feelings. What we do when we walk into a room is a ton of math. You think you're not good at math? I got news for you. You're really good at math. Because what you're doing is you're listening to sounds in one ear and comparing the amount of time it takes to get to the other ear, and your brain saying, okay, I'm drawing a picture based on sound. This stuff, the PINA, this is, most theorists agree, designed to create what's called phase distortion of audio entering your auditory canal that helps the brain determine, okay, that signal must be coming from overhead. When you walk towards a street, the ears are on guard way before the eyes are. If the ears hear an engine off to the left and it's moving closer, it has that specific rise in volume, it has a little bit of an anti-Doppler, it's getting closer. Then the ears say to the brain, hey, get the eyes involved, look left, boom, and you avoid having that rundown feeling. So the ears are able to do this. Now, how do we start putting this into drama? Well, early on in the Left Behind series, when I was talking to all these blind folks, Focus came to me and said, we got a show for you. And I said, all right, let's go to it. And so I started dropping some of this stuff in. This is from a program called Gloobers.
Wow, that was great, eh, Jared?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess? What's the matter?
I don't know. This is just getting kind of boring. I mean, we've had some great battles, but I thought this was supposed to be a learning game. It doesn't seem to be learning anything at all. Just plays every level the same.
That's enough for me.
Well, it isn't enough for me. Come on.
Where are you going?
To check out something I saw in the last corridor.
What?
You remember Eugene talked about those safety proto thingies?
Yeah.
Well, I think they're keeping the game from getting more challenging. Ah, here we are.
Just a really subtle thing, okay? The word corridor was my clue. Okay, I can help the writer, okay? I can sync with what the writer has done. The writer has said, in this next corridor. And I said, okay, as a sound designer, I can play with that. All right, so all I did was I simulated walking from a smaller space to a larger space. And you can do that. So this is next level stuff. Instead of just them walking and they're inside some undefined room, you can actually create changes in the space. All right? And we'll have other examples of that as we get into other modules. There is, you can do distance. All right? There's some stuff for a... It's an obscure program called, what is the name of that? Lamplighter, yeah. Robber's Cave, distance.
Here's the river. Turn to the right. Ah, there's the tree trunk. This is where Enrico fell. Surely not a ghost. Is this a trick to take me on my path to freedom? Or is it? There's someone down there on the ledge. Hello? Help me! Enrico! Please, help! Quickly! My strength is giving way! Don't have a rope. What can I do? Hold fast! No! I cannot hold any longer! The water, it will take me away! Any moment! Look! I'm making a rope! These knots have to hold. Make haste! Or I am lost! There! Now a tree to tie this end. Now the only tree is this little thing!
To find out how Enrique gets out of this jam, you'll need to tune in next week. Those actors are standing next to each other in the studio. It's the process of understanding how we're going to perceive it, how we as the audience are going to perceive it, that gives you this enormous toolbox to put distance into play, to put movement, okay? Same production. Whoopsie.
So you will, Mateo.
Okay, so there's a couple things that you need to be aware of. There's parameters that affect how we perceive sound, okay? If I'm standing right near you, you're hearing predominantly direct sound. Let's call it 95% from my mouth to your ears. 5% is bouncing off walls, but your brain's saying 5% ain't enough for me to pay attention to. I'm going to focus on this. The farther away I get, the higher the percentage of reflected sound reaching your ears is, and that's when your brain says, he's further away. It's also assessing we're indoors, it's a room, it's an old school room, it's in upstate New York, it's snowing. No, your brain's not doing it. But that's the primary, is the amount of time for direct versus reflected sound to reach your ears. We're also assessing equalization. In other words, the tone. The farther, you pull up to a light, right? And Broham's jamming next to you, what do you hear? You hear the low end, right? Because high frequency dies a quick, mouse-like death when it comes in contact with anything firm. Metal, upholstery, the guy's chains on around his neck, you know, whatever. The high frequency ain't going to survive that. But the low frequency, bolstered by the 6,000 watt amplifier he's got in his trunk, is shaking not only his brain, but the car around it. The car is becoming a transducer. Low frequency is traveling, okay? So, and the third variable is level. The further away you get, obviously, the more the energy dissipates as it travels through air to reach your ears. So if you play with those three parameters, you have an entire new toolbox to play with to create a sense of distance, a sense of movement, a sense of space that takes your storytelling to the next level. Now, it can be as simple as, you know, that was an example of distance, moving towards, falling. You can just create a perspective, all right? And the revelation of story is something Dan's going to be talking about. You've got a mystery. Why, you know, what's going on here? And then the listener slowly gains more information. This makes the story process interesting. So you can actually do that in productions. Here's a quick cue that demonstrates simply being in a different perspective.
How exactly did Dr. say that? I see. She never struck me as the type. Well, yes. It is ironic that the first decisive moment of her life was also her last.
Viviana?
Yes. It's just waking up.
I am hungry.
I'll speak with you later. Goodbye.
And how is Uncle Raisha?
How do you know that was Mr. Plashat?
Okay, so using simple next level understanding of sound, we create progressive revelation. First of all, we hear a distant conversation. We don't know why we're distant. Secondly, we're only hearing one side of the conversation. That makes it more interesting. And then third, we understand, oh, we are with another character, and that character draws the original character in. So just using a little bit of distance, we have three elements of progressive revelation in our storytelling, which is far more interesting than just sitting there listening to a phone conversation. Okay? So that simple module demonstrates what's possible if you're willing to take the time. Again, you're thinking about this in the writer situation. So in that case, I had to record those two things separately so I could create that distance. The engineering perspective has to understand what's going on, because you can't necessarily record the guy who's falling at the same time you're recording the other guy. They need to be isolated so you can do these things. The director needs to know it, say, you can give me more, you can trust the process, let's go. And so the more you know about all of this stuff and what we're capable of doing with our hearing, the more options you have, the more tools in your toolkit. All right, let's move on to our next module, and that is acting. You work for the story. That's the t-shirt. I work for the story. Okay? The actor works for the story. It's this collaborative experience where everybody works for the story. There really is. Now, I know Doc Hamby is going to say, I'm in charge of the story, but really he's not. Really he's not. The story is in charge of him. Look at what he's committed his life to on behalf of the story, right? He owns half of this town because of the story. So when you understand you're working for the story, then some interesting things become possible. Okay, so who's my willing victim? Actor. You're up. All right. Saddle up to that microphone here, and you're going to do 3 lines for me. And this is going to demonstrate how the actor integrates into the process of understanding the story. So the first line is, hello and welcome to Masters Guild.
Hello, and welcome to Masters Guild.
Great. The next line is, you're hiding inside a trash can, and you're going to tell us you're hiding inside a trash can. Go.
Wait, I can say anything or just...
I'm hiding inside this trash can.
I'm hiding inside this trash can.
That was fantastic. You notice how she changed her voice to align with the space that I gave her? Perfect. Now, you're inside a stadium, and you're supposed to meet friends. It's a 90,000 seat stadium, and you can't find anybody. So you say, hey, where are you guys?
Hey, where are you guys?
Give me another one.
Hey, where are you guys?
Good. Go even louder.
Hey, where are you guys?
Fantastic. Let's give her a round of applause. That's some fantastic acting there. Wow. That was a mediocre round of applause. We're going to have to work on that. Okay, so now let's do this. Boom. Amazing. Look at that. All right, so first up,
Hello, and welcome to Masters Guild.
wow, that's professional right there. Sign her up. Be careful of Mark, though. He's associated with the union, so. Yeah. Okay, so here's our trash can line.
I'm hiding inside this trash can.
Yes. It's brilliant. Very nice. And then let's go to the stadium, shall we?
Hey, where are you guys?
Get some more level.
Hey, where are you guys?
And
Hey, where are you guys?
that's my winner. And you'll see why in a second. See this right
Hey,
here? Where there's a pause, okay? As an actor, if you're aware of your environment, you're saying, okay, I'm going to be in a really reverberant environment. I might want to stop every now and then, because that's what we do in loud environments, okay? We get thrown by the feedback, plus it allows this thing to ring out a little bit. All right. I've done a couple events. One of the things that God's given me the opportunity to do is live events. I host triathlons, running races all across the country, and I've done 2 events in Brown Stadium. And it's a 6.7 second delay from the microphone to coming out of the stadium PA. It's unbelievable. You have to just say, okay, I'm ignoring that altogether. I'm not even listening to that. Okay, so our standard line here is nice and strike zone. That's not it. Hang on. Here we go. This guy right here.
Hello, and welcome to Masters Guild.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Sign her up. Okay, but now, so with the actor understanding of the environment, then other players in the process get involved, and we go inside a trash can. And that sounds like this.
I'm hiding inside this trash can. I'm hiding inside this trash can.
All right, so that's the collaboration between the actor understanding the environment and what the process is going to do. Let's go find a stadium, shall we? Where's my ding, 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 ding. What'd you do today, honey? Oh, I had to hide inside a trash can. Hey, Wembley Stadium, London. We love London. Here we go. Here's London.
That is strong.
And it rings out, and rings out, and rings out. 12.2 seconds on that particular delay. Fun. I was over there, Wembley is right near Soundhouse, and Beyonce did a concert, 2 days of concerts at Wembley. And so at 3 in the morning, I was woken up by 3 girls singing Beyonce songs in the hotel room next to me at the top of their lungs. That was a longer day in the studio the next day, but fortunately the Soundhouse has good coffee. So.
Todd, explain Soundhouse, they don't know.
Okay, Soundhouse is a studio that we use a lot in London. It's northwest of the city of London. It gets it. It knows. And the actors love it. The staff there is incredible. It's right near a tube stop. There are scenarios where lamplighter is taken, students over there, lamplighters doing a wonderful job of creating stateside independence, and I applaud that. But there is a particular sheen in London. Because of the BBC and the history of so many years of radio drama, they understand how to get it done. You don't have to explain it to them. It's a wonderfully creative place. All of the Narnia series done there. So much great work has been done there. Okay, so let's look at an example of putting all these pieces together. And you're going to have the voice track. You're going to have, then we'll throw some distance at it. And then we'll wait for technology to figure itself out, because this is what technology does. There we go. Okay, so here's a VO take.
Come on, Dad! He's right behind us! Stop! You boys, stop! Vincent! Look out for... The waiter!
Boys, no running! You almost made me drop my tray.
Sorry, sir! Excuse us! Sorry!
Okay, so these actors are all clued into what's going on in the scene, and they understand that there are going to be things going on. There's motion, there's rattling, it's on a train. All right, so now here's...
Sir! You stepped right in front of us!
Did I? Oh, look!
here comes the conductor. Where are you boys? Where? Oh, I am so sorry, Wilson. I'll be back to help you clean up, but first, have you seen two boys? A white boy and a black boy? Actually, I was just telling you. There you are! Stop right there!
All right, so now we're going to dial in this same instrument. It's called an altiverb. It uses what are called impulse responses, which are basically a recording of the process that we've been talking about. That's an impulse, okay? And that creates sound waves. Those sound waves spread throughout the room, and they do particular things based on the room, the construction of the wall, the height of the ceiling, the composition of the floor, etc., so forth. And an impulse response reverb records all that and simply recreates that. So you can feed anything you want, including voices, into the picture of that room. And so here we're using a picture of a railroad car. All right, it looks basically an old railroad car. That's the impulse response through which we are now feeding these voices. All right, and so we get this. Now, these lines here that you can see represent how much of that we're putting on it. And as you can see, we're reducing it as we go across this scene, which creates the impression of less reflected sound, more direct sound. Therefore, the sound source is getting closer. Thank you, Caleb. So here's that movement.
Sorry! Oh! Sir! You stepped right in front of us!
Did I? Oh, look! Here comes the conductor. Where are you boys? Where? Oh, I am so sorry, Wilson. I'll be back to help you clean up, but first, have you seen two boys? A white boy and a black boy? Actually, I was just telling you. There you are! Stop right there! And now, lads, what did I tell you about running off? Sit. Perfect. Sit.
Okay. And here's what it sounds like when it's all done.
Tell you about running off. Sit. Enjoy the scenery.
But sir, we have to...
Sit.
Well, okay.
Now I have you. I'm sorry, sir. Have my friends been causing a ruckus?
One of the things that makes me laugh about that scene is you're working to be collaborative. You're working to, everybody works for the story. And then the writer goes on for a long time while the conductor is supposed to be racing through this short railroad car to grab the boys, and you have to make the conductor run for like 3 minutes down this short railroad car because the writer is, having a brain fart and wants to go on and do a diatribe about, so, yeah. There are times where the writer needs a wake-up call. So there's And there's an art to this. When the writer understands that we all work for the story, everything's hunky-dory. But sometimes in the rare occasion, okay, the story comes with stipulations, all right? Chronicles of Narnia, Focus tried for years to get the license to dramatize that. McCusker finally moves to London. I'm not saying he married Elizabeth just to be able to do the Chronicles of Narnia, but he married a gal in London, and through numerous meetings and other productions, finally got Doug Gresham to agree to discussing dramatizing this. And the Lewis Foundation was very, very strict about how this would happen. So in that case, the words of Clive Staples had to be preserved. And if they couldn't be acted, they were narrated. And all of that was very tightly controlled. So there were situations in that production where the conductor had to, run down a very short train car for a long time, metaphorically speaking. But we did our best to find ways to cover that. And I think I actually, let me just check here. Because I think I have a fine example of that. Where did that go? Let's go here. All right. Good. Okay, so we have, yep. So our, all right. Next level tool number 1. What was it? Yeah. Yeah, take advantage of what we can do with hearing and work that into your storytelling. Next level tool number 2. Yeah, acting with an awareness, okay? Acting from a place of knowledge, all right? De Niro has this reputation of getting into character as soon as he's on set, so he's walking around sulking and coming out of his trailer and all that, but he's a very good technical actor. So, but the actors who are aware, those are the guys that are easiest to work with. Stuff keeps popping into my mind. It's amazing. Where are you now? So we go there, we go there. Nope. Okay. One of the things the British actors sometimes do is, when they're going to create distance, they back up. And they just, like, okay, that's fantastic. Could you stay on mic this time? We'll create the distance. Yes, so acting with an awareness of what's going on. Now, next tool. We're talking about words as being the base level. What if we told stories with sound? List some emotive sounds and the emotion they convey. Go.
Like
person clapping or laughing.
Okay, what's the emotion that conveys?
Joyish.
Okay. Okay, let's get away from people for a second. Nothing against people, but let's get away from people. What kind of sounds do we hear that have emotive content to them? Yes.
Crashing sounds, like in a battle or something.
Okay. And Rebecca, what's the emotion?
Terror or fear.
Yeah. Yes.
A busy city, which I would think would convey like either like a stressful situation or you're preoccupied and busy.
Or it could be exciting. If you come from a farm and you hear a New York City skyline sound, there could be energy on that. So, yeah, that one would have to be couched a little bit in context to get the desired result. Peter?
Organ music, like suspense.
Okay. So that's actually composition, because you could also have organ music that you would hear at the circus, which would be goofy and scary for many people as well. Seth? You're Seth. You're Caleb. You guys keep switching up.
I'm Seth Caleb.
See, this started last night at dinner. Caleb.
Along with composition, tempo, something speeding up could either create excitement or strings going back and forth.
All right, you guys are giving me people and music. Get away from that. What about crickets?
Silence.
Creaking down the stairs slowly.
Yeah.
And suspense, sneakiness. A window being opened slowly.
Oh, I love it.
Flaming kitchen knowing there's something ahead. Slamming a door, anger.
There you go.
Lightly closing a door, somebody who's pensive, coming into a conversation, not wanting to make noise, as opposed to somebody, maybe a little louder. They're not thinking. Slamming it, they're angry.
What does a whistling wind tell you?
That is called
Something's open.
Lonely or empty, wide open space.
There's
A
some
storm's
outside,
coming.
and you're
Right.
inside.
Right. Some kind of foreboding, perhaps. Maybe it's cold if you want to go cold. What else?
Leaves rustling. You can make it very windy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Leaves rustling evoke the sense of autumn or change, a change of season, doesn't it? Just that simple. All right, so our next level tool is sound as a storyteller. All right, let's listen to a few examples.
Hello? Oh, hi, Steve. Not at all. Oh, it's very nice here, too. I've got the volume on, some iced tea. Oh, Chester says hello. Kim says hello to you, too, Chester. Okay. No, that's fine. Call as late as you need to. Well, why wouldn't I be here? Right. Talk to you then. Bye.
We don't expect it to grow due to the massive high pressure area, which continues to provide great weather for the southern portion of the country. Moving on to our forecast, another beautiful day on deck for us tomorrow. Sunshine throughout the day, temperatures right around our normal, and our computer modeling shows at least 4 more days of
After breakfast tomorrow. Don't want you cutting any deals on us. What we do recommend is that you get some shut-eye. It's a long ride to the camp, and we've got a tough week ahead of us. Now, if you can't sleep, please at least keep it down so that others can. You freshmen are listening, right? More importantly, we don't want to bother our driver. Later tonight, we're going to be in the mountains, and that's no fun in the station wagon, let alone this big monster, all right? This might also be a good time to be praying that some great things will be happening this week, okay? Ride well, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the morning.
Okay. Tell me some of the sounds you're hearing there.
There were frogs at the beginning.
Sorry?
Were there frogs at the
Yes, there were.
Wind and leaves at the beginning.
Right.
rain?
You're right. So attach the emotion to it, though. Do the next step. What's the sound and what's the emotion that it's evoking, at least for you?
Suspense.
Okay,
It's sort of
coming from where?
It's kind of like the quiet before the storm. Storm or whatever.
Okay.
Yes.
Foreboding. Yeah. Peter?
The waves kind of like, to me, it simulated like passage of time between the two.
Interesting, yeah. Okay.
Was there a car in there?
There was a bus.
There was a bus.
The
Because
first
like
part,
there was the radio part, and I thought like they were driving in the storm or something.
I was picturing a living room in the first part where the TV was on. It must have been the evening. You hear maybe a window was open or a door. You hear the leaves in the wind outside. And in the distance in the living room, you hear the nightly news and someone's maybe fading in between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that I committed to early on is the thought that I'm not going to tell you what to listen to. I'm going to give you options and you can choose. And so in each one of those scenes, the first two especially, there's 3 different things going on. And each are designed to create a sense of the direction that I want that particular scene to go. So if you listen to the AAA ball broadcast in the back, it, for some, will evoke, a warm summer evening, out with the fam at a ball game. If you listen to the waves, it sounds like a beach house. For some, it will evoke the beach house, the vacation. If you listen to the crickets, it's an evening. The cat is designed to create this sense of comfort, comfortably sitting. Now, the only thing I regret, Flo Schmid, phenomenal actor for many years, the line she does, "Why wouldn't I be here," is a little on the nose, and I regret having not pulled that back some, but, we all live with regrets. So that's a montage of sounds, and I call that scene before. Here is that same collection after.
Excuse me.
Yeah, trouble, man?
It's my husband.
Yeah. Does he need something?
He's gone.
I'm sorry.
He's disappeared.
Ma'am, you probably stepped off to the washroom while you were sleeping. I'm sure he'll be back.
Would you mind checking? Now, take this blanket. I'm afraid he's gone off naked. He's a religious person, and I know he'd be terribly embarrassed.
He's going off. I see. Well, maybe you should ask this fellow, the one who's next to you.
No, the one that was wearing that suit.
I'll be right back. I'm telling you, sir, we combed the entire path down the hillside and a 400-yard radius around where the bus landed.
Steve, that's a 48-passenger bus. Loaded with luggage, clothes everywhere. And you find 3 bodies. Just 3. So it's not making sense of what gives.
You got me, Sergeant. The call came from a trucker who was behind the bus. Didn't see him try to avoid anything. No sharp turns, no blowout. Says the bus came to the curb and just kept going straight right through the car. I need to be the guy that has to tell the church their entire youth group is gone. How many?
117.
You're sure?
Not sure of anything right now. I just saw a lot of clothing, socks, diapers, glasses, wigs.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Let's see what we can find out.
This is PanCon 2-9er Heavy. We are declaring an emergency. Does anyone copy? PanCon 2-9er Heavy is declaring an emergency. Any aircraft that copy, please respond. Concord 08, that's a negative. Over. 808, we could make Kennedy if we had to. We're outbound from Chicago. We'd much prefer to continue to Heathrow. Paris? What is happening, Concord? I've got a situation here I don't want to talk about. Roger. More than 100.
Okay, so if you're engaged in a conversation with someone and two people come up on either side and start talking to you, what does that do? Confusion, distraction,
Which one should I listen to?
stress. Thank you. So if I want to create a stressful situation, I just put 3 chains of information into my drama. Right? That's just one of the things we did in that scene. The second, what is more forlorn than an unanswered phone?
I thought the lady from the last scene died or something. She did? Oh. Okay.
Why do you think the cat's freaking out?
Yeah.
Okay? A cat at ease has a particular tone. A cat that's distressed has a different tone. Then if you choose to listen to the AAA ball game, the announcer is describing that Jacoby was on left. I'm pretty sure he was on left. There's people, okay? You got another stream of information. You have the ability to cue up the fire hose and have your listeners drink out of it if you so choose. Because sound can tell stories sometimes even more effectively than words. Same thing when you're inside the airliner. You have the primary conversation, but you also have the captain coming up with his version of what the plan is going to be. We're going to pass around foreign entry cards. And you have a couple moms running around screaming for their kids. Choose what you want to listen to. We're still trying to get to the same place. But because there's this cacophony of input, we're actually creating stress in the listener. We're using sound to create the response we want in the listener. All of which has very little to do with the words. Okay. It's one of my favorite combinations of scenes because it really epitomizes the power of sound. You know, at no point, I mean, the closest we get is the Concorde pilot saying people have disappeared. That's as close as we get to what Jerry Jenkins wrote in the book. And when we sent that out for the first pass of the script, it came back on the nose, and I said, no, sorry, we're not doing that. We're doing this. And then we had to go to war with Jerry's agent, who finally came around and said, okay. Anybody remember the Odyssey series, The Mulligans? All those animals! You're killing me with all the animals. So there's a storm, and Jesse's little baby goat has run off, and she's going off to find it, and it's dangerous because the goat gets caught in the stream, and Jesse tries to get it. Nowhere in the script does it tell us what actually happens when Jesse gets to the stream, but I made a decision.
Come on, sweetheart, I'm right here. Come on now. I've got you now. It's all
Okay, simple example, our hearing changes dramatically when we go underwater, right? So why wouldn't I put her underwater? Really? More donkeys? Okay. They were thrilled. They had no idea. The writer didn't think, and then we started seeing this whole, and falls underwater, and falls underwater, and falls underwater. Like, come on, guys. But they did. But your hearing changes dramatically when you go underwater, right? So if you want your listener to experience what your main character is doing, bloop. Now that's not an easy thing to do in sound design, but if you study it, there's a pond, go stick your head in the pond. Why did you get pneumonia? Well, it was for a class. And then you can do that. Nowhere in the script does it say underwater. Nowhere does the dialogue say goes underwater. But we can tell that part of the story with just sound. This is probably one of my favorite dramas of all time, and we tell one of the pivotal events with just sound.
What's that? Must be the bells Jim Rodney was speaking of. So, it's another year. What good can the bells do me? Oh, Christmas, or New Year, or church. Instead of catching me death of cold, I might as well go back in my home and... What was it? Strange. I must have had one of my turns. How long have I been standing here? I'll get bombed by the fire. Great heavens. Is it gold? A child. A little girl. With golden hair. Where on earth did you come from? And how did you come to me? Shh. There now. You're safe with me. Let's get into the warm by the fire. Well, little one, is your mother out there? Oh, gracious me. What is that in the snow? Oh, let her not be dead.
So Silas Marner gets in trouble because he has these blackouts, and they talk about the blackouts downstream, but the first time the listener encounters it, it's all told through sound. The little girl graduated from college a couple years ago. He was a collegiate runner, Kevin. Yeah. You got a 6-month-old, you don't necessarily have to deal with the gender, so. All right. Sound can also accentuate your storytelling. All right, so you can take it a little further. Back to Gloobers. They're inside a computer game, right? And the central processor, if you will, referred to as the brain.
Perhaps I haven't made myself clear.
You'll be playing computer and video games. There'll be no need for talk or anything else.
So that's the actor, but then to create this sci-fi game world thing, then we use sound to accentuate.
Perhaps I haven't made myself clear. You'll be playing computer and video games. There'll be no need for talk or anything else.
And so the opportunity is there to tell a story with sound, but also accentuate a story with sound. Okay? So any questions up to this point? We got our next level toolbox expanding sound as a storyteller. It's one of the most exciting ones because if you get it right, it's so intriguing and so different. Yes?
Can't sounds be neutral though, like the frogs in background?
Absolutely.
Like, because when you asked what emotion that was, like, it's not an emotion, it's like a place and setting thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
To some people, Cutter's bug repellent has this strong emotive connection to backpacking. To other people, it just stinks. So that's the trick. Number one rule of communication is know your audience. So if you think something might work, you might want to kick the tires on it. You know, play it for a few people on your team.
So if I were to have a warm summer setting and my audience was people from Colorado where there really are no frogs, probably 6 frogs?
Yeah, for Colorado, you'd want to have like Harley Davidsons and mountain bikers and how much work are you willing to put in to contextualize your story? Okay, what I did with the with Lee in Virginia, where we heard the guys running in the train, is I wanted to establish an old and small steam engine to periodize that pretty quickly as Civil War times. And so I specifically chose that steam engine because it wasn't, you know, the Erie, Lackawanna, you know, huge coal hauling East Coast behemoths. It was tiny, it was Civil War era to kind of periodize. If your period definition is important, that's one of your first tasks. You're going to sit there as a writer, you're going to sit there as a producer, and you're going to say, how important is it? One of the scripts you're going to look at, one of the books, one of the Lamb books, happens basically right after the time of Christ. So you're going to have to look at, okay, what sounds can't I use? Oh, well, Herod doesn't have a cell phone. Rats! You know, what's the Middle East tone going to sound like? And how do I set that? And you're, you know, the go-to, the first place to go, not that it's wrong, but just understand that it's the first place you go is to the composer. And you say, hey, composer guy, I need, you know, the little Middle Eastern flute, right? But are there other ways to set that evocative context? And how much, not only are you willing to do, how much time can you afford? Because you've got to get your listener involved. And so you have to hook your listener in. So in the process of selling this story to your listener, you might have to get into scene 3A before you do scene 1. Can you do that and set the context? Do you need to have the context initially? Can you hook them in, leave them asking questions? Okay, the little scene where we're listening to somebody in the distance on the phone. Progressive revelation. What is it that I don't know? How do I become interested in knowing? Am I willing to wait it out? How long do I wait? That's the trick for the writer, is how long are they willing to wait? Because if you hold out too long, they're gone. So this is the balance. This is the dynamic. This is the director, the producer, the writer. This is, you know, this is the whole kit and caboodle working on that story. And if you have contextualization, if you know where you're at, if you're in a desert setting, you've established that, and then you can do something that's evocative to calm piece, something like that, you want to try and use that. And you have to be willing to say, yeah, swing and a miss, that didn't work. And so having trusted ears to bounce it off a team, and frankly, the more you do, the more you get a sense of, yes, if I just put crickets out there, then, and you can be, just as an actor's line can be on the nose, which is how we describe something that says, I'm angry. Okay, great. Thank you for the subtlety in that. You can also do that with sound. You can have sound that's just too in your face. Door slam. Okay. Let's subtle that up a little bit. All right. And the tool we're moving into next is actually a great way to do that. So reviewing. Number 1.
Know your audience.
Number 2.
Acting with awareness.
Correctamundo. Number 3.
Sound.
Sound as a storyteller. Yeah, fantastic. So next tool we're calling Crunch Time, the art of Foley. Who's familiar? Everybody familiar with Foley? We know what we're talking about here.
I know of it, but never touched it.
Okay. There's 2 types of Foley. There's Foley that is contained and Foley that is free. We're talking about Foley that is free. Foley that is contained is the predominant type of Foley that you're going to see. It's Foley that is locked to picture, and it's an art. We borrow from it, but it is very constrained. It has to be done correctly, otherwise it doesn't work. Let's watch a little bit of this wonderful piece on Foley. Fantastic piece. That's constrained Foley. That's Foley that's got to be spot on. There's two things that happen when something doesn't match, okay? And you probably have experienced it watching a movie where, you know, you have a two-shot and you go from the guy standing like this and the next shot he's standing like this and then he's back like this, all right? There's a cognitive dissonance that says, wait a second, that was a bad edit. And if you notice it, you're yanked out of the moment. Suspension of disbelief is what we're pursuing, right? And if you notice the bad edit. Same thing happens with Foley. So if any of that Foley is not spot on, or, you know, she pulls, the character in the video pulls out a knife and we hear, you know, a plastic spatula come out, all right. There's a couple levels of distraction. First is unconscious, like cognitive dissonance, or it just yanks you out of suspension of disbelief altogether, and you go, wait a second. So this is constrained Foley. What we do is unconstrained Foley, and that means we have a lot more freedom. And the beautiful thing about the Foley studio for me is it tells me so much about the story. I learn so much when I go into the Foley studio about my story. Remember, the story is not locked. I work for the story. All right? When I go into the Foley studio, I'm learning that the guy needs 3 seconds to get to the door, pull his revolver out of his holster, and then reach for the doorknob. The writer did it in 1 second. The actors did it in 1 second. But the Foley studio tells me I need 3 seconds to get over there. I'm going to reach for the doorknob. You're going to hear the little click as I made contact with it. You're going to hear the revolver come out of the leather holster, and then you're going to hear, okay. I don't know that timing until I get into the Foley studio and actually have to do it. Why? Because I want it to be realistic, and I can't have my character fly across the room because he's a superhero and not touch the ground, and suddenly the gun's out, okay? So, and this is what I was referring to in some situations where the conductor is running, you know, for 20 minutes through a very small railroad car because the writer had to do this, you know. But in unconstrained Foley, we're also learning more about how the characters interact. And we can actually go back. It doesn't happen often, but there are times where the Foley studio dictates that we go back to the VO edit and we tighten some things up or open some things up. More predominantly, I will say to the engineer, okay, give me 3 more seconds there. I need to go through the process of getting this revolver out, pulling back the hammer, and I want to do it in such a way that it's a little bit more menacing, and that next line is coming in too quick. So we'll actually open up the VO and start doing that. The next thing about unconstrained Foley is that it doesn't necessarily have to be what it is to be what it is. Give me some examples of stuff that would create sound that wouldn't be what it is.
An umbrella being a train.
Oh, nice. Kind of a...
It's not my original thought.
Oh, you stole that. I say. Okay, yes.
Like crunching, like vegetables or bell peppers to be like cracking the bones.
Nice. Watermelon. Watermelon is commonly used for skulls, as are cantaloupes. We had a scene where a really bad person reached inside the chest of a man and pulled out his heart. And we used a cantaloupe and a ketchup mixture, and the Foley walker who did that was very excited about that. He just thought that was the coolest thing ever, and then sat there and did this with the innards of the cantaloupe to emulate the heart still beating after being removed from the person's chest. It was a kid's story. Dr. Seuss can be kind of dark at times. No, I'm kidding. Yes, what else? Something, yeah.
Using different shoes to make different like foot noises, like a girl could be wearing a guy's shoe to make like a guy's kind of sound, or like a high heel, like those type of sounds.
I have the slickest pair of Italian shoes that just sound so hot when I walk in. Yeah. Yeah, no, but all right, shoes sound like shoes though. So let's get outside. You know, how did they make the initial, for our Star Wars fans, how were the initial laser blaster sounds made?
Made in the mouth.
Banging on radio tower guy wires.
Oh.
Indiana Jones is being chased by a huge boulder. How's that sound made? The guys from Skywalker Ranch were out all day collecting sounds, trying to figure out how to make a boulder. They were taking rocks and rolling them and trying to slow it down. It was frustrating. the end of the day, they get in their Datsun station wagon, release the safety brake, and it starts rolling backwards down a gravel road. They all had a light bulb look on their face, jumped out, got the recorders out, and rolled the Datsun station wagon backwards while recording the rear tires. That's the sound of the boulder chasing Harrison Ford. Somebody mentioned twisting leather. That's a good one. Sack of potatoes can work for a body fall. I have a bag that I've created. It's got a winter coat. It's got some carpet. It's got some weight in it that I use for body falls, you know, because there's only so many times you can take a part-timer and throw him to the floor before they start, you know, wondering if that's the career choice that God has for them. So you kind of have to emulate that. Luke Skywalker's land speeder. LA Harbor Freeway with the microphone looking into the hose of a vacuum cleaner. Air conditioner slowed way down becomes a huge spaceship. Sound of a dog walking on a hard surface is made with Lee press-on nails glued onto gloves. Okay.
Todd, were you the one that did the sound effect up in Colorado, up in a lake, up in the mountains? Is that you? The one else. I forget what drama it was.
I've done some. I've taken a group of kids up into, when we did the sound for Squanto, I took a bunch of kids up into the North Woods, and most of them came back. So we had a campfire. Yeah. What do you think we got here?
Snow.
Right? So on the Silas Marner drama, before the mom drops off the baby, we hear her walking in the snow. This is an open bag of cornstarch, so I'm going to try and do this without wearing it. I have a box of cornstarch in my studio that's older than some of you. It has served well. All right, let's see if we get this here. Right? I did a spoof drama one time with the line, "Come on in out of the cornstarch and warm yourself by the cellophane." Because cellophane, you can do like a crackling fire, right? Put this away before it gets out of hand. And then there was a cornstarch explosion. All right, Foley doesn't have to be what it is. It's a little bit more of a subtle art form. With the right amount, with the right timing, the right performance, it will take your story right to the next level. The suspension of disbelief. If you hear someone move, okay? When we do, all of our productions have at least a foot track. Each actor has his own foot pass. But if there's specific intrinsic movement, then we'll do an upper body pass as well. All right, and this is going to involve a garment that has a little bit more resiliency. You know, my wife made fun of me for years because I would dress based on, how my clothing sounded. But, and then you have this growing collection. Well, you saw it in there, the Foley studio. If she's ever missing something, you could, is my teapot in the Foley studio? And most of the time it's not. Some of the times it is. You never know what something's going to sound like, and so you end up collecting all kinds of things. It's really crazy. So there's a fine line. A little bit can go a long way to suspending disbelief, getting you to that next level. Too much, and suddenly it's distracting. All right? For my ears, some of the early Odysseys, the characters, here's their mouth and here's their 2 feet, right? Right up next to their mouth. And, I'd get notes back, we can't hear the 16th footstep. Well, yeah, that's because 3 people were talking at once, and I didn't figure that it was that important, but to them it is. Now I'm getting cornstarch on my jacket. All right, so subtlety is important. So let's listen to a couple examples. How are we doing? It's 10:30. Everybody good? Do we need a nature break?
Yep.
We do? All right, we're taking 5. Go get a break. Toolbox. Toolbox. Yeah, you could create some sounds with that. All right, so let me show you a couple of examples of how we integrate these subtle little things that Foley represents to kind of take the bigger picture and make it bigger picture. All right. Robin Hood. So the idea is...
The very gates of death. That may be so. Full coat, men at arms.
Swords ready?
Stop! Feeble steward, you will be the first to die.
Yes, you will. Okay, so let's break this down. So what we have here is we've put some swords in, all right, and this is going to be what you could call the shing, all right? So that sounds like this. Predominantly metallic, which is what you want. But to support that, that's where the Foley comes in, and we create a much more realistic So it's the collaborative, okay? And you can see here we've got sweeteners. That's a term that I use a lot to just kind of augment. These guys are wearing armor, okay? So we have an armor sweetener. And then we also have a little bit of horsing around. Numerous times I've left the Foley studio saying, well, that was a long day in the saddle. I actually have a saddle that is in the studio, and sometimes the movement of a saddle is best created using a saddle. So the couple elements there, you get the little leather squeak coming down, you get the feet in the surface, and all of that combines together. So this is just a glimpse of the size of what's going on and how we're breaking it out. Just for information's sake, we have some backgrounds that we set up. And then we have our voiceover from the actors, and then we have this Foley. So moving on in this scene, suddenly Philco and his men are in a world of hurt.
What's ready?
Stop! Feeble steward, you will be the first to die!
Suddenly there comes a sound like a great bee, and an arrow cuts the air and speeds through the bars of the knight's helmet. Roger de Longchamp gives a deep groan, sways, and falls for his horse.
So this is where the script is leaning into the suspension of disbelief a little bit. Like a great bee, okay, is how the arrow was described. So we're going to put together the sound that supports that first. with the impact, and then we're going to sweeten that with our Foley passes to create the movement, the response, and set up the fall. So that is going to go something like this. So again, working in context. Now, the next arrow has a different description, so we have to do something else to support that. That comes along.
Might want to launch him. He's dead. What? No, Roger is dead.
Again comes a swift sound through the air, but this time like the low whistling of a forest bird, and the hapless man-at-arms sinks to the...
Now, I'm going to go ahead and mute our crowd. This is not mixed. This is all still raw, so the crowd kind of overwhelmed our troubadour / narrator.
Roger is dead.
Again comes a swift sound through the air, but this time like the low whistling of a forest bird, and the hapless man-at-arms sinks to the ground with a small black arrow shaft jutting from his breast.
Run away!
So, like a bird is the description, so we'll set that up with effects and then augment it with a little bit of Foley. Goes like this. That was a big bird. So you get the sense that it's all collaborative. This stuff is, you're orchestrating these little bits and pieces and pulling them together, and then you mess around with the mix. And you can see here that I have associated with these particular clips levels. This one's -2.8, this one's 0, this one's -4.6. So I can do clip-based automation to actually build, and then this particular project was handed off to somebody else to mix, and you know, I don't always agree with the decisions they make, but it's their project, and so it's their right to do so. So that's the collaborative nature. The Foley is subtle, but it adds to what's going on. Let me show you another example that we've just created. Titus goes for a walk. So you guys are going to be doing approximate Bible time. So this is set in 70 AD, and
You there! Stand where you are.
I am standing where I am. And who are you to interrupt my walk?
A sharp-tongued man and carrying a javelin. Do you not know that Rome has prohibited you Jews from carrying arms?
I carry this only in case I cross paths with a lion.
I carry mine for battle! You didn't even flinch. I'm impressed.
Then maybe you'll be impressed by this! You don't look as tall anymore. The hills of Palestine could be a lonely place for a lost Roman without his horse.
That buckler you hold, it will do little to shield you from my sword.
It will be sufficient.
I've not seen such spirit since I came to this blighted land.
Quite so, because your conquests have been against children and the elderly.
If you had been taught by a Roman, you would not hold your shield so close to your face. It makes me sad to have to kill you, Jew. This sport has been the most excitement I've had in almost 2 years. I'll make this quick.
Furious burst, John ramped ahead and bound his attacker, throwing him to the ground. The Roman dropped his sword. John sprang to his feet, lifted the sword, and pointed at the throat of the general.
Now! Who is taking control? I could kill you with your own sword. Then do it, Jew! Strike me! For I am Titus!
You are Titus, the general.
I
Yes, I am Titus.
All right then. Swear to me, by your Roman gods, swear to me to spare the temple.
What?
Swear it, or I will kill you now.
Are you mad? No! I swear to do all in my power to spare the temple.
You have sworn. You have...
By Hercules. Or by Hercules. I will not break the oath I have made to you today.
A couple nice examples of collaboration all the way through the process. When you're editing VO, one of the things you learn is to look for plosive consonants. Plosive consonants represent breaks in your audio, and they make great places to edit. K's, P's, all of these, you'll find a big driveway that you can drive a truck through right in front of as you're going about the process of editing. But they also represent opportunities in the storytelling. Perhaps you caught it when he says, let's find it here.
Is your conquest have been against children and the elderly?
Okay, so as I was directing this piece, I told John that I wanted children and elderly to be impacts. And I knew the process was going to support that all the way along, okay? And when you're swinging a sword or a hammer or a rubber mallet or whatever it is you're swinging, and you're making impact, there's something that happens in your voice, okay? You're going to make a particular sound when you're hitting something. So that is a great way for the director to look downstream and say, I want those points to really jump, so the actor's going to give it to me. As a writer, how might you do that? Put it in bold. Put it in caps. You're going to make a particular sound. Okay, that's a hint that as a writer, you have something in mind. Now, the director has to pick up on the hint. Maybe the director is going to sit next to you during the recording session, maybe not. Maybe you wrote this 6 months ago and the director has to pick that up. But you might be able to put into notes. This is the culmination of the fight, the second strike scores a hit, whatever. All right, and then what we do with the Foley is we create the movement that supports that. We do the sound design to support that. We get the composer on the right page, and suddenly you have two very nice alignments of all the elements of the process to take your storytelling to the next level. Okay, and then we're also dealing with, again, the composite where...
And maybe you'll be impressed by this! You don't look as tall anymore. The hills of Palestine. Conquests have been against children and the elderly.
Okay, so our Foley track in support of that move is here. All right, subtle, that's all we need, but then we have the sword hits. All right, and then once the sword hits have their desired effect, down comes the Roman general. Oopsie, he fall, go boom. All right, so again, it really collaborative, all right? Let me show you one other example of this, and this is more recent in its timeline, but again, this is part of lining it up so that all your pieces get along.
Could it be any more obvious?
A neon sign might work.
Oh, wow! I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's been a really long time since the frisbees touched the ground. What do you mean? I've been keeping track, and we've caught the frisbee 93 times in a row without dropping it. Wow, that's pretty good. Let's try to keep the streak going. 94. 95. Come on, guys, we can make it to 100. Hey, Wyatt. What are you doing? We're playing frisbee. We got 95 catches in a row. Cool. Throw it to me. Okay. Are you good at frisbee? Oh, yeah. You're holding it wrong, Wyatt.
Actually, this is the way the professionals throw it.
But you're throwing it directly into the ground.
Matthew, I'm not a professional. It would take me years to perfect this technique.
And 0. Let me have it. I'll show you how to do it.
Okay, I'll throw it to you.
No! I'll come and get it.
Here you go.
Thanks. Now, watch how I move my arm.
Watching.
Okay? And catch.
Got it.
Oh, good.
What? Ah, you're using the flamethrower technique. Classic. Although, you should hold your elbow a little higher. Let me show you. Yeah.
And back at 0. You know, I'm gonna go inside.
Yeah, me too.
I'm kinda hungry.
Oh, okay. I'll just be out here practicing. Yeah. This is not a professional grade frisbee.
Okay, so perfect example of lining up the voice track and supporting it with the bits and pieces, okay? So what I've done, you can see it along the top here, I've marked catch and ground, okay? These are spots where the story has the frisbee hit the ground, it has it caught, and so then I created these Foley elements, and because you can edit and move stuff around, you line them up. So in this respect, I'm kind of constrained Foley, like our video. I'm matching the voice track that's coming to me from LA, and that's fine. All right, but I have to make it work. And so I'm doing these exaggerated elements so they line up with the voice track. Here's and I got to tell you, it took me about an hour to get the sound of a frisbee hitting the ground to sound like a frisbee hitting the ground, right? The reason we use cornflakes and cornstarch is if you go out walking in the snow, it doesn't sound like you're walking in snow. Sorry, it just doesn't track, right? So we tried all kinds of different things, and I'm out in the backyard, you know, waiting out planes and every other thing to get that sound of the frisbee hitting the ground. And then when I got a good sequence of them, then I just went to work cutting those in. Okay? All right, and then, so going out in the yard is an example as well of sometimes you just want to get the sounds that you need, and there's not that many other ways to do it. Sometimes you just have to get creative. So here's a little exploration of sound effects that we did. We call it SF Expedition. My guys put that together. They were so thrilled to go out and crash school buses. I don't know. So, a couple things about that. We needed a scene where a school bus crashes through a blockade of police cars, goes through a chain link fence. The two guys run out and run to a Learjet. The engines are spooling up, and I'm sitting here looking at this scene, going, "My head hurts." It might be easier to just go do that. Actually, it turned out it was. It's surprising. You can't find a lot of sound effects of people crashing school buses. I don't know why. Apparently there's some negative connotation to that. But so on a whim, I called up a racetrack near us that races school buses in figure 8 and said, "Hey, this is going to be an odd request. Any chance you'd be willing to crash one of your buses into something for some sound effects?" Yeah. At that point, I was concerned. That yes came a lot quicker. So it was a NASCAR registered driver, but we bought the station wagon for $150 at a junkyard nearby, and it was towed to the parking lot of the Rockford Speedway. And we rammed that thing a dozen times or so, and the takeaways were the school bus is rock solid. It had a leak in the cooling system, but other than that, it didn't care. The car looked a lot different when we got done than it did when we started. It had all its glass when we started, not so much when we finished. And the Learjet portion, one of the guys who was working for me at the time had a friend whose job was to be on call to fly this rich guy to college football games anywhere in the country with him and his friends. And he had this Learjet sitting in the hangar, and every month they had to, due to regulations, at least spool the engines up, and then on an annual basis they had to do some checks and so forth on it. And so my friend asked if we could come along. And so I'm actually on the phone with Mark Drury out in focus, and I'm following Steve through the hangars at the Aurora Airport, and he comes around the corner, and the hangar door is up, the halogen lights are on, and here's this Lear 60 sitting there under the lights. And I love aviation to begin with, but as a sound designer, they're going to hand me a Learjet for a day. It's like, ooh! Mark, I'm going to have to call you back. Click. Just like, wow. And every switch, all the movements, all the recordings, the spooling up the engines, spooling down the engines, taxiing. You saw that scene where we were running to it. It was an amazing sound going. I had that stereo mic in the recording rig and going inside and then closing the door and the change in ambience. All of that stuff would have been so hard to create, and it was so fun to go chasing it. So, and then the Delta 767. Sitting at O'Hare overnight, Noah Delta captain, who said, "Yeah, I can get you in there." That was a week and a half before 9/11. Never again. So that was a rare opportunity. We had the, we had the service cart, and we went up and down the aisles, every switch, latch, in the cockpit, out of the cockpit. The captain threw a few switches, and then the maintenance guy comes running up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because it was making some things happen down in the engine. And the cool thing about that is you can learn stuff even in that process. So for another scene, I needed a, where'd we go? Nope, not you. I needed a lot of ambulance stuff. So, again, hey, friend. Paramedic driving around, and I said, can we use your ambulance? And he said, yeah. So I got a binaural head, and I strapped it to the stretcher. And so we loaded it in, loaded it out, drove around with it so that the perspective of the listener was laying on the stretcher, getting loaded into the ambulance, recorded with a binaural head, which is a head with two microphones in it, okay? So it's about as realistic. So if you listen to it in headphones, you're there, okay? And one of the cool things I learned is we're driving around, it's a slightly wet, snowy night, and we go under an underpass. I would have never guessed this. So it makes perfect sense, because when you go under an underpass, that's when people rev their engines because they want to hear the reverberation. But I never thought if you're riding in an ambulance, you're going to experience that when you go under an underpass. So that was kind of like, wow. So, you know, that's why I always love getting real sound if I can. And there are, Shure makes this little microphone that pops onto an iPhone. It's incredible quality. There's a fantastic app that's in support of it. And it's seldom that you go someplace where you, man, that's an interesting sound. I need to grab that. You know, I'm looking at this tool tray right here, and that alone. Okay, there's a lot of ways you could use that. Okay, so Foley. Crunch time, taking your sound to the next level, all right? There's another thing that we can do a lot of, and we're going to be demoing that more when we get into the actual recording of the voice track, which we're going to do in February. You're going to work with Dan on a couple of books, turn them into scripts. We're going to go into the studio. We're going to record actors, and then we're going to take a look at the voice track of that. And voice track editing is an incredibly powerful next level tool because there's so much you can do. You've heard discussions. If you've watched any documentaries about movie making, then we went back to the edit room and we re-edited it, okay? It is not a straightforward process where you just go this scene, this scene, this scene. There are ways to change the story, change the revelation, change the suspension of disbelief, change the progressive reveal of what's actually going on with the edit process, and you can do that with audio too. So in your stories, once you get the dialogue recorded, there are a lot of things you can do. And in the edit process, you may find, okay, it's just taking too long for this. I'm going to take this out, or I'm going to move this phrase here. We'll show you that in February as we're in the studio, we're recording these actors, and then towards the latter part of each day, we're going to take a look at, you know, our dailies, the audio version of the dailies. We're going to be cutting stuff and showing you the power of that. I mean, if you think about it, even the pause is essential. And we're going to explore this from the actor side in just a moment, but you can create pauses when you're editing. Do you like my dress? Oh yeah, I like your dress. Edit. Do you like my dress? Oh yeah, I like your dress. Different meaning, right? It's the subtle nuance, next level storytelling, just by playing around, and the editing process allows you to do a lot of that. So very excited. I'll be back in February. You're going to be working with Dan. I believe you're going to be working with Kathy along the process to get this script pulled together, and then we'll go into the studio. We'll be doing the recording, and we'll be looking at it during the course of the entire week. I'll be here for a week. We're going to be looking at the edit process. We're going to be looking at next level communication as it relates to the directing process. Okay? Because not only are we storytelling, we're in a creative, collaborative relationship. And so the essence of this next level stuff also plays into the very unique director-actor collaboration and the communication around that. All right? And I've seen directors, I've worked with directors who are one way, and I've worked with directors who are another way in terms of how they take care of their actors. Your actors are a valuable resource. Everybody in this process is a valuable resource, but your actors are a valuable resource, and to a degree they're expendable because there's only so much energy, there's only so much emotional interest. All right, let's go ahead and do take 17 of that fight scene. No. So the director needs to be able to A, understand the process, okay? I've worked with directors where I've got the voice track back from them, from the studio, and it's take 5, take 6, take 7 of the entire scene. And I'm going, why on earth are you doing this? And I know why, because I know the section that he's trying to get, but he's not articulating it, nor is he trusting the process. When I go into the studio, I'm going to do a read, which oftentimes has gold in it. Always record the read. It's a no pressure. All right, let's just do a read of scene 16. Always roll. Always. Always. There may be a surprise in there that you would have never guessed. Then you, okay, that's fantastic. A couple tweaks, let's do this, this, and this, and here we go with take 1. Boom. Okay? I'm not going to give them a 20-minute diatribe on the backstory of the scene and why Granny is wearing green shoes instead of red shoes, and we need to hear the difference in the color of the shoes. I'm going to trust the actors in the process. Then I'm going to do take 2. And if line 170 to 180 is problematic, I know the process enough, and I know VO editing, that I can say, okay, we're going to pick it up right at the top of page 2. We're going to go from line 160, we're going to go to line 190, and I'm preserving actor energy. I'm saving time. Or when we go to the Sound House over in London, we typically want to pack as much in as possible. Daniel Philpott does a fantastic job of lining up the actors to get us the best actors for the time that we need. What did we turn this up to?
74.
Okay, let's dial that back down. People are going to sleep. And it couldn't possibly be me. Insecurity. And the next thing we do is we take our script and the scenes that we have, and we send them off to Mark Drury, who is phenomenal with scheduling, okay? You have this actor who's in these scenes, and he's available this day. You have this actor who's across from him in these scenes, but he's only available this day. Where's the junction of those two? Multiply that by 40 actors, 5 days in the studio, a lot of money being spent, and you can save your client, in this case the producer, a lot of money by really dialing in that schedule. So by doing that, we're preserving actor energy, we're bringing them in fresh, we're getting the most out of them, and then we're pulling them out. So all of this to say, this is stuff we're going to be exploring. As you look at next level storytelling, make sure you're aware of the fact that you as a writer, you as a director, have input into getting the best out of your team, no matter where they are in the process. All right? Okay, so next up, real quickly, 2 more tools in your toolbox. Check that. 3. Exciting. So this one's kind of self-evident. Composition. The ability for you to articulate to the composer what's going on is important. Some will simply hand off voice track and say, I need music for this. Others will create a character out of the music. The music knows there's a bad guy behind the door. The music doesn't know there's a bad guy behind the door. The music can be a character. Here's an example of the music being a character. All right, there's a specific character that this music is conveying.
Janet, I need you to contact the association. It has begun.
That one desire. I'm pleased to tell you that it seems our work may soon bear fruit.
And where would that be?
Romania.
I've just received word from Bucharest.
And?
She is out.
That emptiness.
I want a child.
A child?
Yes. The dog has no appeal to you?
We finished this discussion 7 years ago.
I was a different person then.
And when have I ever given you the slightest impression that I changed my stance on this subject?
That relentless void.
I want a child. I need a child, and I will have a child.
What would you be willing to trade to fill it?
Here we go.
Quite simple, she says. You just light a candle. I am here. I've been told you want to speak to me?
Experience The Rising, audio movie format.
You have been chosen to bear the child, and all he asks in return is that you pledge your love and allegiance.
Available now
He's so quiet.
from earflex.com.
All right, did you hear it? She's lighting a candle, and we let the score be the response to that action. Okay. By the way, that's that is the movie trailer guy. That's Scott Rummel, good friend of mine. And it's a movie trailer, right? You're going to be talking about promotion later in the semester. I like calling my things audio movies. The blind guys that send me all these notes it's their cinema. So why not do an audio trailer? That's what that is, okay? So in that case, the cue is the character. I also sometimes want to just use the cue to step in and maybe reinforce the obvious, okay? Here's a kid learning to fly. He loves flying.
Your aircraft good?
Everything looks perfect.
Do an airworthiness assessment. Use go-around procedures if you need them. Otherwise, we'll see you in 30.
Roger that.
This is Piper 73 Hotel.
73 Hotel, Poplar Grove.
I'm west of the field on VFR. I have the field in sight.
I call that cue the joy of flying. It's just simply saying, I love flying. It's not words, it's emotion, it's creating more information about that particular character just with the cue, okay? So composition, an obvious way to take your storytelling to the next level. Learn how to create characterizations. Learn how to talk to your composer. And part of that is going to be, what is your composer good at? If your composer is really good at stringed instruments, go there. Take the strength of that composer. We all don't have access to Jared D. Pasquale and John Campbell and all these cats. When we do, that's fantastic. Rock and roll. Stretch them a little bit, all right? I use Johnny Campbell for the stuff that I'm taking to Africa right now. And I had to tell him, we don't want any Odyssey in this. It is for kids, but we want it intrinsic to the African ear. And he did a fabulous job with it. He really did a good job. Let's talk about a couple more tools here real quick. Mix is where more stuff can happen. So as the storyteller, again, the director is pulling all these things in. When the sound designer goes to mix, that's the same process, if you will, in that you can make decisions at that point. I need to hear more of this. I need to hear less of this. Let's go ahead and tighten this up. I've been known many times to take a cue and shorten it up so that I can take a section and shorten it up. And sometimes if you tell the composer that you're editing his cue, he gasps and faints and falls over. But most composers know this is a very real possibility. So let me quickly step you through what that process looks like to go from point A to point B in terms of the space, the storytelling. So I've got, we heard this kid who loves to fly. He gets into college, and we're telling his story. He's meeting up with a girl. He's going to a party. So we wrote a cue to support the party. All right, that's basically it, college frat party. Now, we're going to put it at a distance. Okay, next step in the mix process, we want to put that cue down the street a little bit. What do you hear? Low end, right? Because the high end dies a quick and tragic death, traveling through anything heavy, right? So you hear low end, and it's kind of muffled, which you'd expect from distance. As the guy is walking up the street, he gets closer. So still a little bit muffled, predominantly low end, but we're getting a little bit of the high frequency because we're getting closer to it. This is how the hearing works. The closer you get, the more high frequency survives and makes it to your ear. Then we're real close. The reason that's different is because we've put it in a space, all right? When we get the cue from the composer, it's simply a cue. It has no spatial signature. It's this. When we're near, but in a space, it has a spatial signature. All right, and then, so our mix process moves through, we want motion, we're using the cue as an anchor, we're moving our POV, our perspective, towards the cue, so we go through those steps, we automate it, and the scene sounds something like this.
Hey, James Bond, something I can help you with?
Yeah, I'm looking for Kitty Wiley. Yeah, you and me both. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. You might want to grab a chair there. Sorry, dude. Excuse me, Mark. Hey, Mark, you know where Kitty is? Yeah, try out back. Pardon me? Excuse me.
Tux.
Thanks. I was going to wear a Kiss Me, I'm Greek t-shirt. Just like that one, actually. Unfortunately, they're only available in kid sizes, but I guess you already knew that.
Hey, big handsome monk. You coming here to make trouble?
Just here to brighten the place up a little.
Yeah, well, your timing is perfect.
Yeah.
So, one element of movement, taking that cue, modifying it to move it through. There are other elements. Then you work with the Foley, you work with the crowd, you work with the VO. Do you need to tighten it up? Do you need to give them more time to travel? So the mix is another component of where you're putting together all these next level things. All right? One quick example of mix where we actually put the production in surround 5.1. We did this in 5.1. Jared did the score. He recorded it in Nashville, came to our studio to mix the 5.1 score. We put it all together, and unfortunately, there just aren't that many players that will handle 5.1 audio, but this is at the back of the north wind, and we use the mix process to place the wind, and then you'll hear the boy being moved from environment to environment using that mix process as well.
Open my window, Diamond.
North wind? I didn't hear you blowing.
No, but you hear me talking. Open my window, for I haven't much time.
Yes, but please, North Wind, you left me all alone last time.
That wasn't my fault. I had my work to do, and I must be about my business. Besides, a gentleman should never keep a lady waiting.
All right, then. I will open the window, but... Who are you?
Who else but North Wind would call at her window?
You're really North Wind?
Yes, really. Hurry up.
But you're no bigger than me.
Do you think I care how big or how little I am? Hurry up if you want to go with me.
But are you big enough to look after me?
I'm big enough to show you the way. But if you won't come, very well then. You must stay.
No, all right, I'll come. But I'm not playing hide and seek tonight.
Oh. Come on, take my hand. Remember what I told you. Hold firm.
I'm coming. But stop. Please, I can't jump over walls. I'm not tall enough.
Oh, well then, I must grow tall enough for both of us.
North Wind.
Now, Diamond, reach out for my hand.
Yes, I'll try. Ah, This is nice.
There you are. Now we can go together.
You can jump so high. Where are we now?
Beside the great river.
Where are we going?
You'll soon see.
So a lot of those components were recorded and passed along, and the mix process was really essential for North Wind to get the motion and the movement. And even outside of 5.1, we wanted it to replicate in stereo as much as possible. So we put a lot of motion into that, and that's part of, the mix is where a lot of things can happen. It's, the story is always fluid. Anywhere along the line, the story can tell you something about itself, and a request sometimes demand a change. Once it's written, it ain't done. It's very fluid at that point. The actors are going to bring their own baggage to the process, their own insights to the process. The director is going to have a sense of what's going to happen. The sound designer has his own perspective. All right, the story is driving everybody, but it's always fluid. You may learn things. So in the mix process, you may find out we've got to get Diamond out that window quicker so that we can build to this big push from the North Wind. All of this stuff we're discovering all along the way, okay? One more next level. And here we are going back close to the strike zone, but not quite to it, and that is speech communication. Okay. I need a volunteer. Come on up. I say, yeah, your hand kind of, so, okay. Here's what I need you to do. You're going to say yes, and we clearly understand that you mean no. Okay? Do you like the meatloaf my mother made for you?
Yes.
Are you ready to drop this silly notion of becoming an actor and get a real job?
Yes.
Norman just asked for your number. That's great, huh?
Yes.
Good. Excellent. All right, so this is what I tell folks that we hire. I need you to say yes, and I understand without a shadow of a doubt that you mean no. Okay. This is next level. So you can write this in. You can certainly ask for your actors to do that. So if you understand the ability to communicate the opposite of what somebody says, don't be afraid to get your script out of that rut. Are you scared, Norman? Yes, I'm scared. Okay? Or, are you scared, Norman? No. I deal with this stuff all the time. Right? You just have to be willing to go to that next level and get your actor, get your story, to use common speech patterns that we use every single day. All right? The pause. Yes, you can put it in with editing, but you can also build it into your story up front. That's an interesting theory. Versus, that's an interesting theory. So, you got a plan as to how to get us out of this, right? Yes. So you got a plan as to how to get us out of this? Yes. Just that pause in there, okay? The space in there is going to tell a whole different story. Those shoes are fantastic. Versus, those shoes are fantastic. Right? Ethan, right here, please. I think you should probably head back to your own table. Versus, I think you should probably head back to your own table.
Sounds like a good plan.
So you feel the energy shift? Okay, so this may in fact be a subtle tool that nobody's going to see, but you will hear. Okay? Let's try another one. I'm going to need you to give me my horse back. Versus, I'm going to need you to give me my horse back. Okay? So how does this work out? Thank you, man. I've got 2 actors in the studio in London, and a main character is expressing to another main character that despite all that she has been through, despite the fact that she has been trafficked, sold by a family member to perform sex acts in the village, God still loves her. That's the scene. Now, if you think I wasn't ready for one of those actors, possibly both, to bring baggage into that scene, you're nuts. I knew this was going to be hard. And sure enough, we knew the main. We had worked with her many times. She's fabulous. She's very invested in the cause. She was all in. But the second actor, we were new to. All right? Our primary in that got cast in Shakespeare across from Cumberbatch on the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. That's how good she was. So we had a new character in this role. And I was having a hard time getting her into that. And I could tell she was carrying baggage into the studio of her own. Now, I need to be sensitive to that, but I also need to get the scene. And so what I did was I went into the studio. In the sound house, we use a line on one side, a line on the other side. Sometimes we'll put gobos between, which kind of divide the sound. For this, we didn't have gobos, but we still had our line, and this main had been working on that mic all morning, and this main had been working on this mic, and I just took another mic, and I turned this one, and I took the mic coming in from the side, and I took the other gal, and I put her right here, looking straight at the other actor. Move the stands out of the way. And I said, what I want to hear is not this. I don't want to hear the script. I want to hear this. And I want to hear this. And she went to a place that hurt, but was good for her. And the scene leaped. Okay? Proximity, again, in an audio drama, you may not be showing it, but it's a powerful tool to take people places you might need to take them to hear what's going on.
Todd, when we did Basket of Flowers, Martha Younger was the director, and we could not get the father, who was supposed to be dying, to communicate last words to his daughter. Just the emotion wasn't there. And then Marshall did something really unique. He goes, composition. How many children do you have? He goes, I have a daughter. And Marshall said, let's pretend these are your last words to your daughter. And the guy just broke down, as he was doing the lines, broke down in tears. And we were all crying watching it, and then he looked and he goes, I have stage 3 cancer, and I've not been able to tell my daughter anything yet. And so he was really living through what he was about to experience in his own life. So unbelievable.
Acting is incredibly risky if you sell into it, if you buy into it, if you're all in. You will go places you might not. If you want to be a good actor, it's not a safe pursuit. Because you have to bring your stage 3 cancer diagnosis that you haven't told your daughter to. You have to bring that with you into the studio. If you don't, you're not all there. And yeah, some of the scripts we work on, they're not rocket science, but the ones that matter are. They're going to take us places. What we want to do is we want to tell stories that have to do with the ultimate story. And what's the ultimate story? Choking, because your arms are nailed up onto a piece of wood and you hang there to where you no longer can breathe because somebody loved you. So you take that and make that the basis, then it's worth it to buy in to next level storytelling stuff, right? And you're going to need to be aware This is why understanding this outside the context of storytelling is so good. It's good for relationships. It's good for harmony in the home. It's good for marriages. It's good for navigating this wacky world of ours. But if you're better at that, then you can go into situations where you can't get the dad to talk to the daughter the way you need him to, and you can coax him to a place where he's actually going to have a little bit of a journey that's likely going to be helpful. Or, at the very least, like our second gal, she's going to learn that there's still some work to be done, that she's got to clean up some of her past. And she's found a way that it's actually not hiding, and it's peeking out. She was a couple weeks from being married, and I'm hoping that she did pursue that work so as not to take that woundedness secretly into marriage, because that's a ticking time bomb. All right, speech communication. There's a lot of ways that we can do this. I want you to start looking for it. And I want you to start recognizing how it can move things forward. I mean, it's great to hear well-crafted lines where somebody says yes and you know they mean no. And there's so many other examples of that. So here's your assignment. Assignment? What? 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 Assignment? Are you kidding me? No. I want 10 examples of next level communication that do not involve speech. During the course of this week, just going through your routine here, meeting Dan, talking about scripts, studying God's Word, everything else you do, be on the lookout for ways things are being communicated non-verbally. Maybe it's something that you hear in sound and it has a particular effect on you. Maybe it's the way somebody sits during a conversation or a class. Maybe it's the way someone responds to something that happens. Find ways. Maybe it's, something someone says and you're absolutely convinced that what they really meant was this and not this. Okay? I want you to find 10 examples and I want you to send those to me. That's the @ sign. And Monday is the 25th. So get those to me by Monday, January 25th. I just want you to get in the habit of looking for ways that we communicate that get beyond that base level of just words. Become a communicator with next level stuff. Real quickly, a story. The first ever Lamplighter Guild. Mohonk Mountain House, there's a gal sitting in the back taking notes. It's quiet, Most of the folks there, your age. She's probably in her 60s, maybe 70s. Like, okay. Don't think much of it. A year later, she calls and says, I just sold my last company. We put toys inside stuffed animals electronically for kids. And I want to do something different. And I want to see if you can help me. I want to do stories. I want to do dramatized stories for kids in Africa who have been trafficked. Oh, okay. She says, yeah, top notch, no compromise. We need African actors. Okay, let's get to work. And this turned into what today is River Cross. which takes these dramatizations into Africa and has numerous trained facilitators on the ground to hit play on these portable players, and kids can sit and listen to 25-minute episodes about Rachel and Esther and what they go through when their parents die and they're taken in by their uncle, and their uncle starts making money off them. And after the episode, the facilitator simply says, "So what did you think of the story?" And that simple question is enough to crack open kids who have been shut down, some of them since they were 5 and 6 years old, and they are now in their teens. Shut down, locked tight. That simple question starts to break them open. And then the facilitators know how to continue those conversations. We have a series of stories designed for kids that are orphans and in refugee camps. 83 million orphans right now in the southern portion of Africa. We have another series of stories for kids that are conscripted into armies and turned into child soldiers at 9, 10, 11, and 12, shooting other kids their own age. And it's the story that we're producing and taking into country that represents a path to healing. If you read the Gospels, Jesus is constantly using story to convey the kingdom. The kingdom is like. The kingdom is like. He used stories. And then you consider what you studied yesterday, Genesis, the beginning of this whole thing. What's the fifth word in the Bible? Had to use your fingers, Rebecca. That's awesome. Created. So you got the value of stories, you got the value of creation. You guys are sitting on a gold mine. Because then the third component is the ultimate story that we just mentioned. Right? So the better you are at storytelling, the more effective you can be in whatever world you find yourself in down the road. So I encourage you to grab hold of this craft. Run with it. Dive in. Any questions?
Is your email, that's going to be all capitalized, right?
Doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Emails aren't typically case sensitive.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I get it. I just hope you understand the @ sign, because that's gonna that's the Ethiopian @ sign.
It's got your own little personal touch to it.
Yeah.
So as we go into the writing courses, what were some of the practical things that you could tell of all of our students, the main 3 or 4 things that they need to be looking at, thinking about is their writing? So we have these 2 stories, Joseph Shield, boy that is gone away from home and he's living on this farm and he's trying to figure out how the Bible does not apply to him, but it's kind of a humorous story, so we have some humor in that one. And every single verse he learns, the Bible applies to him that day in an unusual way. And the other one, this Roman general story, dashed to pieces, a worldly daughter, fearful daughter, he just comes to know Christ, he's going to be found out that he's a Christian, he's a Roman general, he's going to lose everything if anyone knows about it. So as they're writing these 2 stories, what are some things in the context of what you just taught that they need to be paying particular attention to as they're writing?
Guy pulls into your garage with a $100,000 Mercedes car. You just happen to have this brand new tool. I'll use this. It's not the right tool for the job. Your job in that situation is the car. So your job in the situation that Mark's describing is the story. So even as you collect new tools, new insights, new ideas, do not lose sight of the story. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You really need to start with the big picture. What is this story about? Where am I taking the listener from here to here? What am I doing to challenge the listener? Good fiction challenges us to change. Good fiction challenges us to change. What's the big picture view? Don't jump into the minutia before you know what the story's trying to do. Once you know what the story's trying to do, and you got a clear vision of where that story wants to go, then you can start reaching into the toolbox and say, you know, this might be an interesting place for the composer to kind of tell us about the chaos of this scene. Because that's an important element of the story. Don't lose sight of the big picture. You work for the story. That's what the t-shirt says. If you ever get confused, look in a mirror and read the t-shirt. I work for the story. Not for the tools, not for the process, not for the actor, not for the cool composer lick that was just sent to me, the story. So as you're looking at these two stories, find the gold in it. See what resonates for you. That's what you then convey. And if you read the story and you're 3 pages in, you say, I have a great idea. You know, hit the pause button on that great idea. Get the whole story. Because that's how you're going to tell the story. That's what Lewis does. Okay, he's got, the Narnia thing is all about the redemptive story. And you don't meet Aslan for a long time, but once you do, his trajectory is artfully planned out through the whole thing. So you have all these little modules, but it's all in the context of this big picture. Does that help? Any other questions? By all means, get a rubber mallet because they're just fun. If you can't make a good, impactful sound with a rubber mallet, you're not trying.
The reverbs you were using earlier, you said something about Altiverb. Did you design one of those programs? Is that one of your own, or is that just?
That's commercially available.
Okay. Do you go around doing the balloon pop in certain places to get your own reverbs, or?
I really don't have time. I know people have done that, and there's ways to do that. But I can typically modify something that's already out there to get close enough. Yeah, it's a time constraint thing.
Yeah. But that's a good one. You like that one?
I love it.
Altiverb.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you can't run it on an e-bike. You got to have a V8 under the hood, but because it takes up a lot of processing.
Right.
But there's ways to do that too. And let me just toss this out. So in past guilds, there's been audio nerds, storytellers who have said, you know, I'm just getting into Pro Tools. I'd love to learn more about that. And I said, okay, here's my number. Call me. And a couple of them have done that, okay? So this is a very entrepreneurial business. No one's going to hand you the keys to great audio drama experiences. You got to chase it. And the fact that you're here means you're doing that. So congratulations. But if you want to go to the next level, I had a kid from Branson. He says, okay, I'm coming. He got on a plane. He showed up. I picked him up at the airport. We put him up for 3 days, fed him. He came to the studio, and we loaded him down with all kinds of Pro Tools stuff. And he's doing great drama. He and his dad are traveling to South America on a regular basis and going into small villages and helping them tell their stories using drama, okay? And what we did was we went through the whole process of, okay, here's how you take the Altiverb and you distribute it on an aux bus so that you don't have to have multiple units running and save horsepower, et cetera, so forth. So there's ways to do all this stuff that's, you know, way beyond the scope of big picture next level tool discussion. But I'm just saying that, all right? And if the entrepreneurial ears are perking up, that's good. You've got to pursue it. Nobody handed me any of the opportunities. I went after them. It's very much a business model too, and I love the fact that Mark has business stuff that he's going to be talking about in the master's program, because it's business. You can't produce a real great level drama with a $20 bill. So you've got to find some way to monetize the product Find somebody who cares about the cause that you're servicing, that's willing to underwrite it, or something like that. But when you do that, and that's the business aspect, then you can access, you can go to London, you can hire the actors, you can do all the stuff that you need to do. So there's very much a business mindset to it. So to become an audio producer means you're going to pay attention during the business classes. And you're going to find people that, have done this and are willing to mentor and have a studio outside Chicago with room. So yeah, that's out there. Did you hear that? Yeah, no, this is really, so I've been doing this for 40 years, and this is really my passion now, is to create opportunities for next level. And for people who come in who are passionate, have a story to tell, have something, and so that's why I'm jazzed to be here. I'll be back in February. We'll go through the process, and yeah, fantastic.
Thank you, Todd.
Look at that, 5 minutes early, woo!